Hello Internet and welcome to this week's edition of 1 Minute Answers from 1 Minute Economics, an edition dedicated to Bitcoin volatility. But before getting started with the 3 questions I have lined up for today, I want to do the following. 1. Remind you that my book launch is very close. So if you haven't by now, please give me 1 minute of your time by visiting 1minuteeconomics.com and reading my message. If you can, please do it as soon as you finish watching this video, or better yet, pause it, visit the website, and then return. I promise I'm still going to be here. Number 2, I want to pick the topic for next week, and the topic for next week is going to be plain and simple worst case scenarios. Now, I think it's impossible to listen to all of the North Korea rhetoric without at least getting some goosebumps. And also, in light of the fact that there's lots of stuff going on geopolitically speaking, I think it makes sense to talk about worst case scenarios, whatever they may be in your opinion. So if you think war with North Korea represents such a scenario, ask me a question about it, about the economics behind such a conflict or anything else. Basically, whatever's on your mind when it comes to worst case scenarios, ask me a question by writing a comment below, and I will do my best to answer next week. For today's first question, Bruce would like to know what's going to happen to Bitcoin now that it has been banned in China. And right from the beginning, I want to make it clear that no, Bitcoin has not been banned in China, at least not for the time being. Now, it is true that action has been taken against certain sectors of the Bitcoin world, specifically exchanges, mining, and ICOs, but this doesn't mean that Bitcoin in general is banned in China. Not at all. In fact, in order to determine what needs to be done next, we need more answers from the Chinese authorities, answers to questions such as 1. Will exchanges be banned for good, or will they be allowed to once again operate in China as long as they get a special license, adapt legislatively speaking, and so on? Number 2, what's going to happen when it comes to mining? Will it be declared illegal? Number 3, what will the Chinese authorities do as far as ICOs are concerned? Will they be banned altogether, or once again, will they be allowed as long as the people behind them comply with all sorts of legislation? And 4, the elephant in the room perhaps, will Bitcoin eventually be banned for good in China? Because, okay, it's not impossible. I mean, gold was banned by FDR over in the United States, the possession of gold by private individuals, so it would not surprise me one bit if we were to eventually deal with an outright Bitcoin ban over in China, but for the time being, that is not the case. So all in all, it all depends on what happens next, because if Bitcoin itself is not declared illegal, then people in China are going to be able to buy, sell, and use Bitcoin through all sorts of methods, such as 1, buying and selling through foreign exchanges, even if Chinese exchanges are banned. 2, buying and selling Bitcoin locally through platforms such as localbitcoins.com. 3, they will of course be able to buy products and services using Bitcoin, and all in all, there are all sorts of approaches they can, take advantage of. Even if Bitcoin does end up being declared illegal in China, I'm pretty sure that quite a few people are still going to find ways around that, just like, people find a way around the internet censorship that's taking place in China. But needless to say, it would be a huge issue for the Bitcoin world if Bitcoin were to be banned in China altogether, but it's too early to tell right now, so in my opinion, we just have to wait. For today's second question, I'm asked if the recent price increase after the crash that took place makes sense. So for those of you who don't know, Bitcoin prices were at an all-time high at around 5,000, then they crashed to slightly below 3,000, and then prices moved back up to around 4K, and yeah, I'm asked if this particular situation makes sense. And of course, I'm going to say that in the end, the market is always right, and therefore, it makes sense because it has to make sense. But to be a bit more specific, it's not that uncommon for asset prices in general, not just Bitcoin prices, to, act in this manner. So for example, you had a huge crash, then prices went up. It's not uncommon. To give you an example, in the investing world, we have something that's commonly referred to as a dead cat bounce, in that prices crashed, but then they rebound for a while before going down further. And yeah, we have that. I'm not saying you can be 100% certain that this current situation in the world of Bitcoin is a dead cat bounce, but I'm just saying that all in all, behavior, price movement patterns of this manner are not uncommon. In the end, again, the market is always right. And I just want to say something about people who think that all you have to do as someone who owns Bitcoin is hold, and hold some more. As of 2013, there was a popular meme and it's still circulating, called HODL. If prices go down, yeah, don't worry, I'm just going to HODL and they're going to be back to all-time highs. I don't think that's a good strategy. I'm sorry. Because, of course, someone who did this as of 2010, 2011, and up until this point has made a gazillion dollars, more power to them, but remember the golden rule of investing. Past performance is not necessarily an indicator of future results. So just because the price movement has gone a certain way up until this point, there are zero guarantees that things are going to happen this way in the future as well. So especially when it comes to assets that are as volatile as Bitcoin, prudence is the operative word. Nobody can predict the future, nobody can tell you anything for sure, but you need to pay attention to price movements, you need to be on top of Bitcoin news, because at the end of the day, you have a portion of your wealth allocated towards Bitcoin in our case, and it makes sense to do your best to make informed decisions. For today's third and final question, Sorin asked why altcoin prices, so the prices of other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Litecoin, tend to move in the same direction as the Bitcoin price. And a decent analogy I can make is an analogy to gold and silver, because for the most part, these two tend to move in the exact same direction, as in, if the price of gold is going up, then the price of silver is going to go up as well. And the same way, if the price of gold goes down, silver is going to go down as well. But silver is the more volatile asset out of the two. So during an uptrend, when prices are going up, silver prices are probably going to go up more so as a percentage than gold prices. But the same way, if gold prices crash, then you can, again, for the most part, expect silver prices to crash even more. The same principle, I would say, is usually valid in the world of cryptocurrencies, and that Bitcoin, which is extremely volatile itself, is the gold of the cryptocurrency world, whereas altcoins are the silver of cryptocurrencies. So if the general trend is up, then of course Bitcoin prices are going to go up, and the same way certain altcoin prices are going to go up spectacularly so. However, when we are in a downturn, I for one would expect a similar price movement when it comes to altcoins. But again, since they're even more volatile than Bitcoin, expect things to be even more abrupt. Now, of course, there are patterns when it comes to altcoins. So occasionally this or that altcoin is pumped and dumped like crazy. So maybe it could happen, and I'm sure it has happened, that if a certain altcoin is in the most powerful stages of the pump phase, then even if the price of Bitcoin is going to go down, that particular altcoin might do better. So yeah, you do have to keep in mind that there is an altcoin ecosystem in this entire equation, but all in all, I think it makes sense, for the sake of our discussion and for the sake of simplicity, especially for someone who's new to the game, to consider Bitcoin the gold of the cryptocurrency world, whereas everything else, the altcoins, are the silver, if you will. The gold and the silver of the cryptocurrency world are probably gonna move in the same direction, but keep in mind that gold, and in our case Bitcoin, is gonna be less volatile than silver or altcoins. I think that makes sense. That's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in to yet another edition of 100 Answers from 1 Minute Economics. And remember, the topic for next week is worst case scenarios. So if there's a worst case scenario on your mind, like a war with North Korea, a solar flare, a natural disaster, or anything else, ask me a question about the economics of it all by writing a comment below. Number 2, Please remember that the launch of my book is getting very, very close. So if you haven't by now, I would really, really appreciate it if you'd head on over to 1minuteeconomics.com to read my message.